It feels a lot like your soul is very peaceful. It's come here to experience a lot of peace. You're supposed to find peace even in the chaos. There are mirroring things in this life from that past life that you've come to heal with this person.
You're strong. You can even, like pull yourself up without even having your feet touch anything.
I find that even in your current life right now, it's still important for you to use your voice.
What I'm getting is that you want a love that you can contribute to. You're asking for like platinum, so you can't accept the copper when it shows up, even though it's pretty too.
You are being pushed outside your comfort zone to seek new heights.
And you are true to yourself and you're true to others around you as you live your authentic life. You are just you, and that is all you need to open up. We need you to speak your truth, Katrina.
Oh, hi. Yeah, everything's plugged in. Okay. Blonde moment. Okay. We are back with another episode in my past life series. This is the 4th episode. Today's past life we're going to listen to is... All right, so today we're going to talk about ancient Egyptian life. So we're going to go into that now. Let's listen.
There's so many lifetimes of you being an intuitive, a psychic, a witch, mystic, whatever you want to call it. There's so many of that. And I'm definitely going to dive into those as well, because those lifetimes of the intuitive self is playing a big role right now with, they show me the word healer. You're healing. They said you're an energy healer. You have, now I'm going to go back into the ancient times. I'm going to go to Egypt. That's where you were, ancient Egypt. Okay. You had a very powerful psychic ability, not just, and now we're going to get a little bit outside the norm now, but what I'm seeing visually is you were able to levitate things with your mind. You were they said that you were you were a high-ranking person. I would say a high-ranking intuitive, high-ranking channel, meaning in those times, you had a whole class underneath you. You were teaching many people how to do it. You were a female in that life. And so you were teaching many students. And when I say students, I mean children, adults, everyone included. And so they said the power of concentration. They said you still have, and I say this to anyone who's had a psychic or intuitive past life, especially this kind of powerful one, we do carry the gifts with us. Obviously, energy may be a lot more different back in the ancient Egyptian days, but we all carry the gifts with us. And basically what Spirit's showing me is the power of concentration. You had such a focused, powerful concentration that's all it was. They said technically that's all it is powerful concentration. You concentrated almost 80% of your life force into moving objects. And that's all it is concentrating and moving life force energy outside of your hands. You can use your hands, you can use your third eye, or your heart. And they said those were the open portals of how you can move things: hands, heart, here. And so oh my God, it kind of makes a triangle. That's what they're showing me, a triangle. They said
we used that technology to build the pyramids, did we not?
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally. That's why they use a lot of these intuitives. No one was really slaving as much as they say. I don't think they were. Yes, there were slaves, but I don't think they were slaving as much as history books tell us. I've never believed it. I'm never into
more of a servitude and less of a slavery. You know what I mean?
Yes. Like, while technically, historically, there could have been slaves everywhere around the world, but I would say at that specific time, there were a lot of you guys, such as yourself, who were highly advanced to the point where, why would we need slaves when we can use our minds? Why? Yeah. We can use our energy. We can use the alien technology. We can use the alien energy. Why would we need anything? So I'm glad you're very open to it, because a lot of people don't really realize that history is totally wrong on a lot of counts, at least in my personal opinion. Just intuitively, when I read stuff in history, I'm like, that don't feel right. This is a total lie, So I'm glad. And of course you're on the same wavelength, because you've had a past life. There is something within you that always knew something was lying when it came to about the pyramids. And that's because you were there at that time. And so going back into this life, I see images of you teaching the children. Most importantly, you really got to kick out teaching kids, because spirit says that kids have this, they don't have any blocks because they're so in it, there's nothing there. There's nothing, really blocking. So they have a very very clear channel. But you as an adult in that life had a very clear, pure channel, almost like a child. Now, what's interesting is, now we're going to get to the fun side. I mean, that's already fun with levitating things, but you were a teacher, basically, a teacher of, they said, manipulating energy. You're a manipulator of energy. That was your title. You manipulated energy. You could make it many different forms. And they said that you were, your DNA was manipulated. So I think what they're saying is it was like alien, like kind of manipulated. So they show me the word manipulate DNA. So usually when I see that word, it has to be galactic origins. So maybe you were like a half breed, half alien, half human. That's what it feels like. And so you were very powerful. And you also answered to the pharaohs as well, one of the pharaohs. And so you were you weren't in the books, I would say you were the person who like they could call on, if that makes sense. So you were very powerful. What's interesting also in this lifetime is that you really, they showed me you're dressed in all purple. Purple was your color. It was everywhere. And also you would be able to generate energy orbs. You know how they say you can just do this and feel the energy, right? So you were really good at being able to do energy orbs, and you would do energy healing work. And this is why we're bringing this one up, is that the energy healing, you would be able to heal people. You know how people are like Reiki practitioners now and things like that. It's similar to that, but I would say way more advanced and intense than the normal Reiki in these days. But yeah, you would be able to diagnose people. You'd be able to heal them. You would also, they said you would use vibrations. You would use tones. That was really big. Sound. You would use tone. You would speak a certain tone. You would play. You would have different little like instruments. Something specific I want to just tell you. They said an instrument made out of copper really works. They said copper really works with energy and moving energy, and with the magnetic energy that we all have. They said copper works well with it. And so you had copper instruments in that lifetime, and that would also, you would ding, and it would help people. You would use certain tones out of your voice. See, your voice is always used, right? So you use tones with your voice as well as this copper instrument, and you would just heal people through that. People could come to you with a broken leg and they would just be able to walk again, kind of thing. Your tones would go straight to the cells, to the cellular memory, and just like fix it. So it's very like, actually going through this past life is actually quite cool for me personally. I mean, I know it's probably cool for you, but I'm seeing things that I never would have thought, just channeling this. So I think this is probably one of the most fascinating lifetimes I've probably channeled, because I never would have thought about copper or anything. I wonder if there's some relevancy. Maybe I have to Google this shit afterwards. Copper instruments, or copper, something with copper in our energy fields. They said it really works. Anyway, going further in that life real quick, they said that you lived till you were about maybe 140. So it was one of those lifetimes where I think it's because you have different DNA in you, you were able to live way longer than the average human. And again, you were also, they said you were helping one of the pharaoh at the time. And so yeah, it was a very powerful lifetime. And they're bringing this up. And basically what they're saying is that it was a good life. You didn't abuse your powers. You actually did everything correctly. The reason why Spirit says the purpose of that life was to, they said to experience almost the totality of your being. Basically what they're saying is, in different lifetimes, we can take different percentages of our life force or our memories from the other side, right? And so you remembered almost 75% of your power from before before we're born. We're like unlimited potential because we're just a spirit, right? But then we come this body and we forget, right? And so, but you came in with 70% memory. That's why you had access to different parts of the brain that no one has. You had access to different parts of energy healing because you were still tapped into the memories of the power of all of us as souls. And you were tapped into that. You had 70% of the knowledge, where right now, say me coming in, you coming in, as in this day and age as normal humans, I don't think it's anywhere near 70%. I would think it'd be like 20%, if that, of memory. And we just have to use this lifetime to keep remembering and get it strong, so maybe we can get to the 70% point by the time we're old, But that was the whole point, was for you to bring in all of that godlike force and that galactic energy to mix well with it. Also, to this day, speaking of galactics, you do have a certain race watching over you. Not to scare you, but
No, I'm not.
Okay, good. Because some people are weird about it, but it is what it is. They exist, you know. And so you do have the DNA still in there. That's basically what they're telling me. The DNA is still in there, and so that's just going to follow you from lifetime to lifetime. Typically, when I see an alien kind of influence over anyone's past lives, such as that, or your hybrid, you typically they follow you from lifetime to lifetime. And they show me the word Sirius, constellation Sirius.
Oh my God. Yep.
It's all coming together, ain't it?
Yep.
It's all
I swear to God, it's like my soul makes me read books and get information to prepare me to be told that all this stuff is relevant. Very, very relevant. Oh my gosh. Okay.
now you know everything that you were led to, book-wise, YouTube-wise, hearing, whatever, movie-wise. Nothing is random. And I'm so glad you're connecting that dot, because I know exactly what you're saying. There's times that I've read something as a child and didn't happen to I'm like, wait a minute. I knew I was into this shit for something. So yeah, our hobbies, our interests, the books, like you said, Spirit sends you those books already in advance, because your soul will, because what happens is when you read those books in the past, right? Like, say you read a book a year ago or 2 years ago, it's embedded in your memory and your cell memory, right? So it's embedded in both. And they did that to reawaken something that they want you to remember. And then what are the odds? Here we are today. No odds for that. So I'm so freaking glad to be able to, confirm that obviously everything that you've been led to has been for this exact reason, for you to open back up who you are again.
Y'all, I know I've said this on several occasions, but I just love these so much. So yeah, this was a cool ass life. So when she started going over, when she's like, you've had many past lives as a seer, a witch, whatever. So when I met the soulmate that helped with the spiritual awakening, the one who I'm met this hot guy on Tinder and changed my life. So I went to breakfast with him. I remember the first time we went out to breakfast. Oh, it was so funny because I'd been busting his balls about going out and doing stuff, right? So we're sitting at this, little diner place up here in the mountains, and, we're ordering our food. And he says to me, now there's people around us, okay? And he's like, he's like, you're a witch, right? And I'm like, I just kind of look at him, right? He's like, you're a witch. And he kind of looks at me expectantly. And I'm sitting there like, fuck, let's fucking get this guy out the house. And this is the conversation that we're going to have over breakfast. I don't know how to respond to this. I hadn't even had the spiritual awakening yet. So again, I was like, okay, I guess white guys are just weird, and this is what this white guy's weird thing is. And I know that sounds really bad. I'm just being honest. But when he said that, and, with my ego jumping in with the whole, this crazy motherfucker, right? There was also a feeling of knowing that he was onto something. I just didn't know what. I just didn't know what the fuck. He was like, well, you got something. You have something going on, He was a lot further, obviously, than I was on his, awakening journey or whatever. But I just remember being like, what the fuck? So when she comes up with this and it's like, yeah, you've had many lives, that's why he recognized that. That's why he saw that, right? So I want to talk about some of how she talked about that I was a natural healer. And okay, so I had, again, with that first soulmate. So, I hate to say he's the first. He's just the first one that I knew was a soulmate. Now, if I'm who my first soulmate was, I would pick everybody in my life, because everyone who's there, my sisters and my mother and, my kids, everybody's a soulmate, right? But this was the first romantic relationship where I identified him as being a soulmate. So, he was going through some really difficult things one time. And I remember, we're on the couch, he's sitting next to me. and I just cleared my energy out completely. I didn't know really what I was doing, just to be straight the fuck honest with you. I didn't have any experience in, healing or, doing any of that kind of stuff with the intention of healing. I mean, I guess if you look at it now as okay, so like I imagine like holding my children and just the energy and the love that I put into my children, because I'm very, 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 very touch oriented. I need to touch people. And then also with the needing to touch people, sometimes I need to not touch people. Sometimes I'll meet people and then they'll give me a hug and I just want to push them off because I can feel too much. So anyway, so he's going through some difficult times and I'm sitting next to him and I decide to completely clear out my energy, right? So to give context, while I'm with him, I'm knowing, there's a knowing in my soul that knows that everything that he's teaching me is real, even though I don't get it, right? So I had learned that when he would do certain rituals or when he would do his practice, I would clear my energy and just hold space, right? Because I knew something was powerful was happening. I just didn't know what, and I didn't know how to contribute. I just knew I didn't want to fuck anything up, so I would clear my energy. So sitting next to him, I clear my energy out completely. And I was always touching him, always, shoulder needs to be touching, hips need to be touching, we need to be touching, because that's just how it was. And he was built like that too, right? So we both had that. So, I had my hand and, around his arm, and I was just kind of leaning onto his shoulder. And what I was doing is with every inhale, I would call light into my third eye and it would fill my chest cavity. And then as I exhale, I could literally feel the energy moving through my arms and into his body. He ended up passing out, right? He woke up and he was like, what the fuck did you do to me? He was like, what did you do? He was like, I think you have healing hands. He's like, you gotta try this again. You gotta try this again, right? So now I'm like, wait, what did I do? I'm kind of freaking out. He's like, all right, so we go in the room. He's like, he lays down. Okay, now I need to recreate this thing. And now I'm all in my head. And I'm like, I couldn't find that space of quiet, because I was it's so funny. So I have a decent singing voice when no one is around. But if you ask me to sing, I can't sing for shit, So it's kind of the same thing. If you ask me to perform, I can't do it. It's what? No, I'm gonna fucking eat shit, But if it happens naturally and organically, it just kind of flows. So that was my first time having an experience with someone where I was I wouldn't say I was trying to heal him. All I was trying to do was just inject love into him, just love and just acceptance. And I'm just here and I'm holding space and everything's going to be fine. It was just this energy, and I was calling in. I don't know what's up with me in the light, but apparently it's probably some old esoteric stuff that I have remembered on a soul level clearly, because as she talked about in this past life, my soul has the knowledge of great healing abilities. My ego's not quite there yet, or this person, we're still working on that. But I also had an Akashic Records reading with Aline, and in that Akashic Records reading, she was like, you, and almost a bunch of my, something that has come up pretty consistently is me being a healer and using my voice. So, she talked about that though. She was like, you need to know that you're a healer. She was like, and you're a natural healer. She's like, you don't need a certificate. You don't need to take a class. You don't need anyone to tell you that you're a healer. You naturally have this ability. And she talked about there being love in my hands and how important it was to use my hands. So that was pretty cool. So my first soulmate, I really wish I could use names, because I know it gets confusing with me bouncing around and just calling everybody my soulmate, but it is what it is, So he started teaching me Kabbalah magic. So we started studying Kabbalah magic. He had already studied it. He was just teaching me to give me kind of a discipline. So how she talked about, wow. Okay. Just airdrop. So as she talked about levitating things, that actually the first popped up. All right, so that was my soul exposed me to the idea of levitating quite a few times. So once I was watching this documentary on some channel about ancient something, Easter Island, I think it was, with the statues with the hats. I think it was that one, and they talked about how there was a theory that the statues were built by levitation. And I remember that really resonating. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. And then me feeling like the pyramids were probably built in the same way. When I studied Kabbalah magic, and there was a particular part where it was mentioned in there, you know, they talked about all the various types of magic, and, you know, focusing the energy and the movement, you know, manipulation of matter, you know, earthly matter, whatever, just moving it. And I remember that really, really like, oh my God, I remember feeling like I can make things levitate. Not like I have that ability in that present moment, but like I realized if I had put through enough focus and energy that I could probably make things levitate. It's really fucking interesting. Also, this did not dawn on me until recently. The reason why that first soulmate introduced me to Kabbalah magic, if I remember correctly, this is based on ancient Egyptian, So I think another part of, you know, his job in awakening me was to reacquaint me with some of the practices that I'm already intimately familiar with. And so I think it was no accident that Kabbalah magic specifically was what I was introduced to. So interesting stuff. What else? Okay, how she talked about me wanting to especially work with children. That resonates in this life as well. I really wanted to, like, one of my earlier goals in life was actually to be a therapist that specialized in working specifically with children who'd been through the things that I'd been through. So, yeah, I love working with kids. I don't know. And I feel like there is a purity there, and there is an openness there, you know, where with adults, there's more arguing because I think they know more, right? Like kids are more open to what is possible, where adults are so busy taking stock of what they've been exposed to and what they've been told and what studies they've read. And they have all this evidence to the contrary of, let's say, they have all this limiting evidence, right? Like how Abraham Hicks talks about you arguing for your limitations, right? Like, here are the receipts as to why this isn't possible, and then you wonder why shit doesn't show up in your experience. You know, obviously talking about manifestation there. I digress, guys. Again, Mercury and Sagittarius. I'm all over the place. Also, I can't speak English. Okay. They also, I feel like in this episode, they really wanted to like remind me again about the importance of concentration and focus. A lot of my energy, again, at the time of that particular reading was really, really, really going into that relationship. And I mean, even in past relationships, I really am like an all or nothing kind of bitch. Like, I can get really dialed in or really focused on something, and then it makes it hard for me to focus on other things or whatever. So I did feel like there was also like an energy of them trying to tell me in order for me to be reacquainted with some of this knowledge, I needed to shift my focus and, you know, my energy. When she mentioned that I worked with the pharaohs, I remember immediately feeling like disenchantment. And I don't know if this is true. I could be totally making this up, even though I've learned I should probably just trust my instincts at this point because they're pretty fucking solid. But I had this feeling of like disenchantment with not like an abuse of power, but just kind of like you're in a powerful position, but you don't really have I don't know. I feel like part of my energy toward the pharaoh in that past life has a lot to do with why in this life I'm really disenchanted and disinterested in celebrity or famous people. Well, it's the same thing. Or like royalty, like the royal family, like all these things that people like to worship, these kind of like, I don't want to call them idols, but you know, these people, entities, institutions that, you know, we hold in this high regard. I feel like even the church, right? Depending on the church and how that particular church controls its people, so to speak. You know, there's just this energy where I feel like my disenchantment with all of those institutions in this particular life might kind of be based on my experience, because in that life I was super fucking powerful, right? I'm a mixed breed. I'm part alien, part human. I can do things that, you know, a lot of humans can't. And so I don't know, I just kind of feel like, I don't know, just not just like a general not disdain, but just there's just like this energy of this general uselessness of the elite. That's just where I'll leave that. Hopefully that's well articulated. Probably not, but it's fine. All right, the energy orbs. When she talked about me being able to do energy orbs, so that was crazy, because there are times, even in like early in my spiritual awakening, where I started noticing that like sometimes I'll smoke weed and I will feel in the balls of my hands and like the palms of my hands and the arches of my feet, energy just coming out of it. Almost like if I were to stand up and just put my hands straight out to the side of me, like I would just fly up, like just take off by the energy that comes from my hands and from my feet. And it's kind of weird. Also, back to, you know, my first soulmate or whatever. I remember one time he actually introduced me into like feeling energy, and I didn't really know what that meant, right? Because, you know, everyone talks about, oh, I see energy, I feel energy, blah, 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 blah. But I remember one time we were sitting, I was actually laying down and he was sitting by me Indian style, and I think he was smoking, you know, smoking the bong or whatever. And I, for some reason, I decided to just put my hand on his thigh. And you guys, my whole body felt this lifted, lit sort of energy. It was so crazy. This also happened again. So if you go back to the episode where I talked about healing through dreams, so this is the same soulmate that visited me in that dream to do like a post-mortem of our relationship. And so but while I was having those dreams, so that day I had fallen asleep really early, and I had woken up after the first dream because it was so real. I was like, what the fuck? And so I went back to sleep. The second dream, I had another dream and he was in it. And then I woke up and I was like, what the fuck? My kids are still like running around and stuff, and I'm just like dozing in and out of sleep, napping or whatever. And I was like, so I said to myself, I was like, what is going on? Like, why are you all in my stuff? I said to my, you know, ex. And then I closed my eyes and I say his name, and that exact same energy of just like liftedness like happened in my body. So anyway, the whole energy orb things and being able to feel energy, I feel like my soul is like giving me these little trickled experiences, because if I was to have probably as much power as I'm probably capable of, I wouldn't know what the fuck to do with it. You know how they say you got to get ready to be ready to be ready? Well, I'm not ready to be like doing energy orbs, even though that'd be fucking cool and I'm all for it. So I also do meditations with myself where I would try to intentionally put myself into a place of like, what do I call it? Like rest and like healing, right? And so it's like just a practice of just completely relaxing every muscle, every part of your body. And then just imagining every single cell looking like a tiny little LED light that just explodes into white light, and it just is clear and it's reset and it's refreshed and rejuvenated. And so I find myself doing this often, and it makes me feel better, and it feels like I give myself, you know, because I feel like a lot of us, I read somewhere that a lot of us walk around with the constant energy of the fight and flight, you know, and when you're in that state, it doesn't allow your body to actually heal itself. And so I try to do like intentional meditations where I'm completely relaxing and just allowing my light to shine, if that makes any sense. It probably didn't make a lot of sense to me, but it was something that I kind of instinctively did do. And yeah. Copper. So she was talking about the instruments, you know, with copper. So when she was saying that, I was like, well, of course, because copper's in our blood, right? It's in the earth. We're earthly beings. We're made of the earth. We eat things of the earth. We return to the earth when we die, like, you know, to incarnate. We're like an earthly being. That copper thing made a lot of sense to me. It kind of made me think I should have bought copper healing sound bowls, because I have sound, you know, healing bowls, but they're the quartz kind. But yeah. I also feel like they really wanted to kind of take, you know, tell me about this life to remind me of my power, just reminding me that I'm here to do something pretty specific. And there's a lot of power in that. I'm not lost, which is funny because at the beginning of this awakening, the very first Akashic Records reading that I had, like she talked about me feeling lost, like, okay, I'm climbing and I'm doing stuff, but for what? And since I've had the awakening and I've gotten more of these readings, like little things like this, little I feel like it's spirit will like throw these little things in like this particular life to kind of remind me of my power, so that I can get more into an alignment with what I'm supposed to be doing. So like, you know, when I first had spiritual awakening, I was like, oh my God, everybody needs to know this, right? But now I'm realizing that sometimes people only need a bit of spirituality in order to get through to whatever they need to get through. My particular journey, not everyone's going to like have a spiritual awakening and then go all ham and then like reopen their psychic abilities and, connect with their, past or alternate selves or whatever. Like not everyone's going to do that because not everyone's incarnation. This incarnation may not be that incarnation for everyone. We all have different, things, and I think that's important for me to remember, because sometimes I'm so excited about sometimes I get so excited about sharing all the information I know or that I've learned or remembered, and not everybody needs to know. Everyone, some people are like not everybody needs to believe in aliens, right? I don't know. Anyway, that's a little random. When she talked about galactic beings and she talked about the Syrians, aliens, this was actually really cool, because remember how I mentioned that one of the ways my guides and angels got me remember how I mentioned that one of the ways my guides and angels got me to be aware of past lives and get, kind of push me into getting a reading. I read that past life book by Lois J. Wetzel, and in there, one of the past lives that she talked about that resonated with me was somebody's past life on the Syrian planet. And she talked about there being a lot of water beings, right? Which is crazy because that really resonated with me. Like when I was living in Colorado at the time of this reading, I would go swimming all the time. We had an indoors pool and jacuzzi, and I would go like during the day when nobody was there, and I just loved it. And then the guy that I was with, my boyfriend at the time, he actually had webbed hands and feet. And I remember thinking that when I read this book, before I got this reading, I remember probably thinking that he and I had a past life, on the Syrian planet or in the Syrian constellation, because there's a couple of Sirius planets. But yeah, so that was really crazy. And yeah, so that was just really crazy. So yeah, so this was just like a really interesting past life. It was really humbling to kind of listen to, as she was like telling me like that I had all this, but it was also a theme in like the different readings that I get, where I get this information and they always talk about like my power, which is just being myself. Okay, like when they talk about power, it's not necessarily like, oh, she's gonna make shit levitate. Like, no, it's not that. What our true power is, and being our true authentic selves. And so I am in the process of uncovering that authentic self as we shed away all the programmed social fuckery that I've picked up since birth. So that's a wrap for this one. The next one is going to be about my alien life. So super excited for that. Just want to thank you guys once again for listening. Again, if you guys want to get a past life reading with Golden V, you can go to goldenv.com. Or you can ask your guides and angels to align you with somebody who does past life readings. Maybe a past life regression is for you. I did one of those with Glacia, but like I said, I didn't have enough confidence in myself, and I don't know, I just don't go well under hypnosis yet. At that particular time when I got that done, it was like 2 years ago, so maybe another one would be beneficial. But yeah, thanks so much for listening, guys, and we will see you in the next one.